The research station on Cathara, 7 hummed with the quiet efficiency of isolation. Lara Venn had been stationed there for 8 months now, studying the native fauna of this frontier world, where humanity had only recently established a foothold. The planet was a naturalist's dream: dense forests of bioluminescent vegetation, crystalline rivers that sang in the wind, and creatures that defied every expectation Earth's xenobiologists had prepared her for. But nothing had surprised her quite like Piky. The little predator cub had appeared 3 weeks ago, emerging from the violet undergrowth near her habitat module, like a shadow given form. Piky was perhaps the size of a large house cat, though the comparison did the creature a disservice. 6 legs, each ending in retractable claws that glinted like obsidian. Sleek midnight fur that rippled with iridescent patterns when the light caught it just right. 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on an angular face, each one capable of independent movement, and a tail that split into 3 prehensile tendrils, constantly twitching with nervous energy. According to her field guide, Piky's species, the Catharan night stalker, was apex predatory from birth, capable of taking down prey twice their size. They were supposed to be solitary, aggressive, and above all, terrified of humans. Piky was none of those things. The cub had taken to following Lara during her daily rounds, always maintaining a distance of exactly 10 meters. Never closer, never farther. When Lara worked at her outdoor specimen tables, Piky would settle into the shade of a broad-leafed fern, all 4 eyes watching her with an intensity that should have been unnerving, but somehow wasn't. Lara had tried ignoring the creature at first, as protocol demanded. Non-interference. Observe. Don't engage. Let the native wildlife maintain its natural behaviors. That lasted exactly 4 days. On the 5th day, she'd left a protein bar wrapper on her table while cataloging moss samples. When she returned from checking her sensors, the wrapper was gone. Piky sat in the usual spot, all 4 eyes deliberately looking in different directions, the picture of calculated innocence. One of the tail tendrils was tucked suspiciously close to the cub's body. Lara had grinned then, unable to help herself. "You're not very subtle, are you?" Piky's ears, if they could be called ears, more like tufted sensory organs, had flattened against the cub's head. The gifts started after that. Small things, at first. A particularly colorful stone placed on the corner of her work table. A cluster of sweet-smelling flowers, still attached to their stem, laid carefully by her door. Piky never left them in plain sight. The cub always tried to hide them, tucking them into corners or half burying them in soil, as if hoping Lara might think they'd simply appeared there by chance. And Lara, recognizing the delicate game being played, pretended she didn't see the little predator carefully placing each offering. Today's gift was different. Lara was running soil composition tests when she heard the familiar soft padding of 6-legged footsteps. She didn't look up. That was part of their unspoken agreement. Piky needed to believe these visits were covert, that the human hadn't truly noticed. Through her peripheral vision, she watched the cub approach, closer than usual. 8 meters. 7. Piky's whole body was tense, tail tendrils coiled tight. In the cub's mouth was something that glinted silver in the afternoon light. 6 meters. Lara kept her eyes on her data pad, tracking the approach with every fiber of her being while appearing completely absorbed in her work. Her xenobiology training screamed warnings. This was a predator species, young or not, and those teeth could shear through bone. But 8 months on Cathara, 7 had taught her something the textbooks couldn't. Sometimes, you had to trust what you observed over what you were told to expect. 5 meters. 4. Piky stopped, so close now that Lara could hear the creature's rapid breathing. The cub set something down on the ground with exaggerated care, then immediately scuttled backward. All 4 eyes locked on Lara's face, watching for a reaction. Lara forced herself to keep reading the same line of data over and over, maintaining her facade of oblivious focus. Piky retreated to the usual 10-meter distance, then did something unexpected. 10 seconds passed. 20. 30. Finally, Lara allowed herself to look up, as if just now taking a break from her work. Her eyes swept the area. passed over Piky with practiced disinterest, then landed on the gift. Her breath caught. It was a talon. Not just any talon, judging by the size and the distinctive curve. It was from a Catharan night stalker. An adult's talon. But it had been worked somehow. Polished until it shone like chrome, with tiny etchings carved into its surface. Symbols. Patterns. Art. This wasn't just a gift. This was a cultural gift. Lara's mind raced through the implications. Night stalkers were intelligent. That much was documented, but tool use? Artistic expression? This was groundbreaking. This was, Piky chirped. It was a small sound, barely audible, but it carried such a weight of anxiety that Lara's scientific mind immediately took a back seat to something more primal. The cub's tail tendrils were wound so tightly they trembled. All four eyes were dilated wide, reflecting Lara's image back at her in quadruplicate. Slowly, carefully, Lara stood. She walked toward the talon, knelt down beside it. Every movement was measured, deliberate, non-threatening. She picked up the gift, held it up to the light, made a show of examining it with obvious admiration. Then she looked directly at Piky for the first time since the cub had started visiting. "It's beautiful," Lara said softly. "Thank you." Piky's entire body language transformed. The tail tendrils unfurled like flowers blooming. All four eyes widened, then narrowed into what Lara had learned to recognize as the Night Stalker version of a smile. The cub made a sound somewhere between a purr and a trill, a noise Lara had never heard before. Unable to contain herself, Lara grinned wide and genuine and utterly human. Piky's response was immediate and enthusiastic. The cub bounded in a circle, all 6 legs barely touching the ground, tail tendrils waving like celebratory flags. Then, in a display that would have given Lara's supervisors heart attacks, Piky approached. 5 meters. 3. 1. The little predator head-butted Lara's knee with gentle affection, purring loud enough to vibrate through her bones. Lara laughed, reaching down to carefully scratch behind those tufted sensory organs. Piky leaned into the touch, and Lara felt something in her chest, warm, impossibly bright. "You know," she murmured, studying the carved talon in her other hand, "I'm going to have to rewrite entire sections of the xenobiology database because of you." Piky chirped again, now sitting directly beside her, all pretense of distance abandoned. Lara looked out over the alien landscape of Cathara 7, at the violet forests and singing rivers, and felt the weight of what had just happened settle over her. First contact. Real first contact wasn't made by politicians or soldiers or even scientists following protocols. It was made by a lonely human woman and a shy predator cub who tried to hide its gifts but couldn't hide its heart. And that, Lara thought as Piky's purring intensified, was the most human thing of all. Understanding that sometimes the best response to an outstretched hand or paw or claw was simply to reach back.